we're going to do something I said I would never do, which is open a second location. So I had said like, nope, one store, love what I do. Sales are great. We made it through the recession. And then I realized that people went from driving 30 minutes for a destination to 10 minutes. But then I had to do it all over again. I had to like figure out how I was going to get customers in a city that I didn't live in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast, where we interview entrepreneurs about their stories. I'm your host, Therese.
And I'm your host, Shelby.
And today we have Jessica from Fleet Feet. Woo! Can you just explain to people that might not know what Fleet Feet is, like what the concept is? Because I originally, coming in today, I thought Fleet Feet was just a retail, but you've mentioned like fun runs and a community. I'm like, okay, wait, I don't know all of Fleet Feet then. So can you explain for our listeners what that is?
Like what I actually do?
Yeah,
I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
So our fit process has not evolved much, but you are correct that like I fit people for shoes most of the time. So we are a running, walking retailer of shoes, inserts, running apparel, sunglasses, you name it. So we are a retail store, but we do a ton of community events. So we have free fun runs on Monday and Thursday nights, and you're just trying to involve the community, whether you're trying to get someone to run their first 5K or do their first ultra marathon, or being in a town like Madison, maybe they want to do Ironman in 5 years. And I've heard that story many times. So it was all about like helping people along their journey. And early on, what I loved about doing a Fleet Feet was that we really don't talk a lot about selling product. We talk about educating consumers. And so that when they are ready for a product for their next, ice age hike they want to do, like that maybe they think of us for their socks, or they are starting a new job where they work on their feet all the time, that they come in and then we fit them for inserts. So that's what it was like when I lived in Sacramento. Like I was working at a running store, but more than half our customers didn't even run. And we would help them find products that made them more comfortable. So that is why I was so intrigued by this business model of Fleet Feet. And, Elizabeth and Sally that started it out of this Victorian house in the 70s, like did that. They drove around in a van and probably sold shoes out of the back, just like a lot of running specialties. That's how it started. And just almost being that like you can make anyone one of your customers. Doesn't have to only be running.
I will say, as someone who like doesn't run anymore, I used to run a little.
We should get you on a fun run.
I used to dabble. I used to run like 6 miles every other day.
Oh, well, then we need to get that.
I can't. My hip.
Oh.
So I like stopped and whatever because it was in pain. But I will say, as someone who doesn't really run anymore, but I'm on my feet all day, like you are too, I came in here a couple months, maybe like 6 months ago or so, got shoes, and I didn't know what to expect. I loved it. I was like, okay, they were like, walk on this little mat. We're going to show you exactly where you're pressing.
Yeah, that was cool.
Your arch looks good. I'm like, this is so cool. And typically, I mean, I'm used to like going to like Dick's Sporting Goods or something. I don't know if I can say that, but like,
blank them out.
Like a big store like that, and just like getting shoes, like trying them on from like a high school boy being like, what size do you want? And it's like, can I get a 9? And then they disappear for 20 minutes in the back doing God knows what.
Oh my gosh.
But then you come here and people are like so energetic. They fit you, like they tie your shoe. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I throw my money at I come here once every like year and a half, because I used to have knee pain, because I'd love to know how people run and not get pain. Which might be inserts. So that we'll be touching on that offline after this. But I used to have knee pain when I would run, and then I got these Brooks, and now I just get the same pair.
She's a Brooks girl.
I am a Brooks girl.
I think I am too. Wait.
They make me feel so good. They feel so good.
I think you're an A6. Is that scary?
I think
I might even know what size and what color.
Oh my gosh.
Guess the size.
Yeah, wait.
Guess
I really don't know. I'm totally kidding. But I do think you are an A6.
Here, wait, put your foot on. I think we're the same size.
I'm a 9.
They call me Bigfoot.
I'm a 9.
Oh, for real?
We look the same.
Oh, these are chunky then.
I think I am an A6 actually, because I tried to be like a Brooks or like a Hoka, because that's what I heard.
Hokas are so cute.
But I couldn't. Like it didn't fit me right. I tried to be trendy and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But they're cute.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I love the Hokas. I felt like Brooks are really good, but
Were you both okay with when we bumped you up just a little longer than you're used to? Because that's always a hard topic. Like people are like, I'm always a 7.5. I'm like, in your walking athletic shoe, standing shoe, you might be up a half to full size.
wait, I don't even know
think
what
I
I
was
am.
actually bumped, and yeah, I love them.
And
Like
your
I
toes
wear
aren't
them.
in the end anymore.
I wear them every day
Oh.
at work. I'm not wearing them now. Mine are very dirty, the ones
All
that I have, because I wear them in the kitchen, and that just happened. So
Jessica, can you give us a little bit of background about how you got started into Fleet Feet, Madison, and Sun Prairie? You're the owner of both. So where does your journey begin with all that?
I hope you guys are ready for this. It's a really, really long story. In 2000, I met my now husband, and he thought I should run. And I was like, yeah, no. My parents run. My sister and brother run. I was a cheerleader in high school and college. Like, no, not going to run. Well, he talked me into it. And then I met his friends and I started running, and I did my first marathon in 2002. And through this journey, my husband was a city planner, and he liked it and thought we should move somewhere different. So we moved to Sacramento, California, where my sister-in-law lived. And she shopped at a Fleet Feet. And she's like, I know you've been running for a couple of years. You should go to this store. And I was like, all right, like, I'm going to check it out. I had a great experience. I was running with their groups, and I started working there. I was working 2 retail jobs. And part of my story is I went to college twice, and it wasn't my jam. I just knew I always wanted my own business one day. And I thought that was going to be a restaurant because I grew up with my grandparents running a private country club. Started working when I was 10. I was like, oh. And then I started fitting shoes. And I was like, I love this. I get done at 8 p.m. instead of 2 a.m. I love the people. I love the community. And so it just happened to be that this franchise that started in 1976 was started by 2 women in Sacramento, California. And through that, the owners I was working for, though, had now bought that store. And I had a great experience. So in the back was the corporate side of Fleet Feet. And I would go up to that CEO every couple of weeks and be like, I'm going to own a Fleet Feet one day. And he's like, hold on. Like, you're like 23. Like, you want to do this forever?
Wait, the CEO of all of Fleet Feet.
Of all Fleet Feet is like in the back. So at the time, there were probably 50 some stores. And here I was working in this original Fleet Feet, and I just like loved it. Like, and he would every once in a while have to be like, hold on. Like, you really sure you want to do this? Like, and I was like, yeah. And my husband, I would come home at night and he'd be like, you tie people's shoes and like put your hands in their shoes and like all day long. And you like think feet are gross. And I'm like, I know. And I really like it. But a big part of it was community. Like I was running with the other runners. I could lead fun runs. We'd like go to races. I had not run competitively in high school or college. And out there, it's really big to race as an adult. So I did cross country and track in my 20s. Being from Wisconsin originally, we looked at Madison, and that market was open. And then I had an opportunity instead to buy Fleet Feet Monterey, California.
Oh.
Wow. Then you said you bought.
I was supposed to buy.
Oh, you
Everything
were
was
supposed to buy.
done. Loan,
Oh gosh.
everything done. Like about to drive there.
Yep.
So because I had such a great experience, I wanted to stay in California, right? I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'll stay near other Fleet Feet stores. And so Monterey was for sale, and the couple decided not to sell. So it was kind of strange because we were like, had done everything. And so then we looked at Madison again, even though we had never lived here. So we thought Madison would be a good spot. When we moved back, there were 3 running specialty stores in the state of Wisconsin. So there's a lot of growth opportunity. So that was one of the reasons. And we thought Madison is a great community to do exactly what we were doing in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel when the sale fell through? Because I can only, like, when we were going through literally just looking for a space and like an LOI would fall through, I was like devastated. And maybe that's, I don't know, maybe I was dramatic, but like I can't imagine going through all the work, like getting the loan, doing all the paperwork, and then having it be like, oh, nope.
And you were going to buy an already
it was an
open
existing
Fleet Feet.
store.
How did you like get back up after that? I would have been distraught.
Looking back, probably because I had so much more going on. We were about to get married, sold our house. And I was like, well, guess we'll just do what was originally our first option was Madison. And then we were like, oh, we have this opportunity. So maybe it was meant to be,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like, yeah, at the time we were like, what? And my boss was like, wait, you just did all this. He said way more swear words than I did. But yeah, we just like you've now realized as business owners, you just like, that was like another bump in the road. All right, what do we do?
Push past it.
So we looked at Madison. So I did some site visits. So I came back to Wisconsin because we had a lot of options. We could have done Appleton, we could have done Milwaukee, we could have done La Crosse, and I wanted to make sure. So I came to Madison and I said, this is it. Even though I grew up only an hour from here.
I was going to ask that. Where did you grow up?
Watertown.
Oh yeah.
My hometown. And my husband's from Appleton.
Okay. And so this one opened in what year?
2005.
Wow. That's a really, that's about.
Started running in
It's 18
2000. And then you're like, yeah, let's open a store in 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you came here, one of the things that's interesting about having you on here is you're the first franchisor? Franchisor?
Yes.
Franchisette.
I'm going to put that when I'm at my owner summit this weekend. I'm going to say there are a lot of female owners, so it's been awesome.
Wow. Okay. So you're the first person that has done something like that on our podcast, which I think would be cool to talk about because, like a lot of people we've had on have come up with some ideas but then there's already so many great ideas out there. So like, why not build off of them? And that's what you did here. But I want to know, because we know the journey of building, our thing from a different place. But when you came here, you had to do all this stuff. You had to like find the place. You had to decide on the build out. And did you feel like working with Fleet Feet, they like kind of helped you a lot through the process? Like, what was that experience like?
Yes. So we definitely looked at doing it on our own because there were only 50 some stores in the country, nearest being Chicago. So I was like, are we going to get brand recognition? I mean, we had all these fun names and like what were we going to name it if we didn't go Fleet Feet?
Can you give us one?
Yeah, wait, did you have a non-compete also?
Our
I'm just
LLC
curious.
name is Runners Anonymous. So yeah, we just like very simple, like probably like our names was like, we're driving back, like, because we had to still come up with our doing business as Fleet Feet, but we still have like our own LLC. So yeah, we didn't throw around much. It was mainly like probably Jessica and Matt's running store. No, but like, but I will tell you the number one reason and same reason today of why I went with Fleet Feet is the people. People were awesome. Like the Fleet Feet Inc. people at the time, now they call it store support team, but like we're such a part of my journey. The owners I had met, I had been to a couple owners summits or, conferences, and I was excited to be a part of that team versus like competition. Number one reason. I am going to an owner summit this coming weekend and excited to see those, now 100 owners. There are 280 stores now, but that was why. Looking at financial help, they helped us get ready and lease negotiations and all that fun stuff.
So it was like a built-in mentorship, did you feel like throughout the process?
Mm-hmm. And to this day, like if you just have a question, like I sometimes only talk to some owners like once a year, but like it's nice to just call someone and be like, hey, what did you do in this situation? And obviously there's owner forums and there's discussion groups, but sometimes you just want to call someone and be like, what are you doing? Like you probably do for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I pay a franchise fee and I pay, all that. And then now keep in mind in 2004, when I did my domain or whatever, which by the way, my husband does all the back end stuff. So I really need to give credit to my husband.
Shout out.
Matt, who does everything behind the scenes. But like my website had a picture of our store with our hours. And I don't even yet know if on that first page had like products we carry. So that's all people were searching for was running shoes Madison. And then there's like a picture. And then you had to like MapQuest to get here. So keep in mind it was different. So innovation is now another big thing in business. So the Fit ID that you mentioned you walked on, I wouldn't have come up on that with that on my own. It may have been a group of Fleet Feet owners that were a part of the discussion of what should be next in what we deliver to our customers. But that's another great part about being a part of a group. So kudos. I love the franchise. Do we do everything? It's just like anything in life. It's 80-20. So if 80% of what they're doing, I do, we move forward right away. Sometimes we wait a little bit. And something like Fit ID, I was a little hesitant because I was
what
like,
is Fit ID?
that is the measuring
walker.
thing that
I love
Shelby
that thing.
mentioned that she walked on. But like, I wouldn't have come up with that on my own because I'm not very techie. But it drives people in our store. But I was fearful at first because I thought people were going to think then we didn't know anything. Like we were like, oh, this computer does this. And then like it does everything for you. I'm like, no. Like we still get to pick the shoe and suggest the size. But I can now say, yes, see, Therese, your feet measure a 7.5, but I think you should go with an 8 because you're on your feet all the time. And I think it'll fit better. So glad I went with the franchise.
Yeah. So you're able to not have to do everything that they're saying.
They
They're
probably
not
love
like,
that I'm saying that, but yes.
So what were the first few years of business like here in Madison?
All right. The first few years, it does sometimes feel like yesterday.
Does it actually?
Yes.
Because I was going to say, does it feel like a million years ago?
Oh, no.
In the archives, you're taking back.
Probably because we do a lot of the same thing. So here I just told you like a ton of stuff is innovative, but like a lot of things we did the same. So we'd flyer race, cars at races to tell them who we were. I chased down people who were out running to be like, hey, we're opening the store.
Really?
One of them became my employee, surprise. That's a whole nother funny story. I may as well tell it quick. So for example, we weren't even open yet. And so we would go to like Burby Derby and some of their local races and we'd volunteer and then we would fly our cars because that's what people did. You put flyers on their windshield. That's so like long ago. Guerrilla marketing, right?
Yeah.
So we would just like make flyers like, oh, our store is opening soon or whatever. And so we would fly our cars. And then, yes, I chased people out running. So one day it was on Rosa Road and I'm driving with my husband. He's like, oh, you should jump out of the car and give those ladies a card. And I'm like, so we're going to drive around the block and like jump out of these people.
That he's like just like so scary for these people.
right. But he's like, well, I can't do it. I'm a guy.
Yeah,
and I was
true.
like, and so we like drive around the block. And I like give him my card. And one of them ended up working for us. She came in and like body glide and like something else with one of her kids who are now like out of college. And the other woman still comes in regularly. And so it was kind of funny that we like went around the block and I'm like, oh, we're opening this store. So we did a lot of that.
Did you do that to more than one person or were you like one and done?
That one particular moment was just funny because we were like driving. A lot of times I'd be like out running and like have business cards or be at events and we'd pop up our tent and say like, oh, we're coming soon. Because you have to do all the build out, right? For 6-8 months. So you're really not open yet, but like hope people are going to come in on day one.
Wait, I want to say just a story because it's funny because it reminds me of like you. Every time we're anywhere, you leave your business card. It's like you'll leave a tip and then you'll be like, here's my card. Every time we go out to like a restaurant or anything.
I do. I put it in like the
little like clipboard or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, it's constant. It's so funny. But to hear you doing that too, it's like, I feel like we're doing that same thing.
Well, do you do it also to get employees? Because that was a tip I was given on early on. So that's another way to be like, you have a great experience somewhere else. Not that you want to take someone else's employee.
Oh,
but
I do it at Turkey Foods every time I'm in.
my God. So you're chasing around people with your car to give them business cards.
Local businesswoman.
Yes. You find an employee from that, you get customers from that. So anyways, this is still like that 8-9 months where you're building out your store. So tell me like, what are you doing during the build out? Because you weren't in here building out, right? You had contractors building. So talk to us about that.
All right. So first you have to fill your store with product. So a lot of our building through is also deciding what product mix we wanted. That's important. I haven't really talked much about product, but so product mix, getting all that ready. And then marketing is very guerrilla, like a lot of events, out running with people, wearing Fleet Feet gear. And so that people would ask also like, oh, who are these 6 people out running together? And like just kind of getting the words Fleet Feet out there. And like I said, so events, and then we did have training groups from the beginning. So we started saying like, oh, some of our staff are going to train you for, this 5K in November. So we did a lot of training groups early on. And then I had to find a couple employees. So I was full-time all by myself and we hired a couple employees. And through those people being from the area, that was great because they were having their friends come in. We talk a lot about never like talking bad about like competition or a fit you may have had in another store that wasn't quite the same experience you had in our store. But we knew we only had one competitor, so we knew we just had to like do a really amazing job. And through the years, that competitor's also gotten better at what they do. So keep in mind, friendly competition is good. But we knew we had a competitor. They knew someone was going to come to town. Like Running Boom was happening again. And we came to a market that there was only one other running store. So we just knew like, okay, how are we going to capture this market that's like 7 miles away from competition? And they stepped up their game. We would step up ours. We'd see each other at events. And like, that was okay because we were getting more people active. Like, it sounds crazy to say it that way, but like, we just wanted more people moving. We live in this amazing city.
The most active city, right?
Yes, bike paths and great races, and we have trails, and like, why not get more people moving injury-free? And that's kind of what we would talk a lot about is comfort, goal setting. So again, circling back to that. And so we did training groups, and then we did a lot of outreach to gyms and any expo or anything we were invited to, we went to early on. So whether it was a wellness expo, women's expo, and then anytime a gym was like, hey, do you want to come in and like talk to our staff? And doing it with no cost. Like I think a lot of times now, like people are like, oh, what are you going to charge if you come fit my staff for inserts at this restaurant? I'm like, I'm not charging you. Like this is a huge marketing thing for me. So we'll go in and fit. So we did that early on as well. So if we go in and fit a group of 6 personal trainers, we sell them product, but we wouldn't charge to go in and offer a service.
Do you still do
arch
that?
length and all that? Yeah. We do a lot of like corporate type
Really?
fittings. Yeah.
Ooh.
Post-pandemic. They kind of, you didn't see as many like 5-6 years ago, but now you're seeing that uptick again of.
That could be something for staff that's on their feet. I mean, honestly, I like my employee who's always on her feet. She's like, my feet were hurting every day, and then I got Hoka's or whatever. And she's like, and now they're amazing. I'm on clouds.
Yeah. So yeah, whether it's inserts or properly fitting footwear or So it would always go between that like community and product and people. And I'm a big fan of that. And they go hand in hand and you can never let up. So early on, yes, there was a lot of, it was a little scary, but in order to open open a business, right? Like I don't have any money. So we sold our home in California. My husband was working a full-time job and I was working full-time every hour of every day and leading every fun run. And I had 2 part-timers. And he would come on nights and weekends and help me. And he did all behind the scenes. So anything paperwork, things. And I did all ordering, all fitting, all fun run leading. But yeah, I mean, we went to one car and we rented an apartment. My brother lived with us. He was one of our first employees and he was finishing college. So the 3 of us were living together and working together. And we took a big risk because we just happened to be lucky to leave California before the big recession and just made a little good amount of money. And
How old were you when you started?
20. I guess I would have signed my franchise agreement at like 25.
And your husband, he worked with you at Fleet Feet, but he had another job.
Yeah.
Also.
So he held our benefits and all those fun things. So it's a whole nother show, right?
Yes.
I was ready to hire a full-time employee. So we hired my husband and another full-time employee. And we wanted to offer benefits. So once we knew that we were going to offer her benefits, then we were like, we'll go on our own benefit package. So that was a little risky as well.
That's intense. Wow.
But I should mention also how different it is today. People would drive 30 minutes for a destination retailer if it was worth the experience. So we knew people were going to drive if we could create a good experience in store. If like we were going to greet and tie their shoes for them and make recommendations to make them feel better. We also have a very nice return policy or fit guarantee where we were like, if it does not work out, you can come back in. And, so if someone is like, oh, I'm unsure between these 2, we can be like, well, why don't you just try them at home? And if you get home and you change your mind, just call us and we'll hold the other one and come back in. So a lot of those things early on drove people in, right? Like, well, if I can get this shoe at that time, really not online, but I want to try that shoe on, then they had to go somewhere to try it on. You didn't really have, it's kind of the start of buying online was in late 90s. So we kind of keep that in mind, how different it was that like really going out and doing all community all the time was and really do that a lot now. But yeah, I went to everything. Any hour that I wasn't in here, I was doing something or inviting someone in or like creating experiences all the time to make people feel more comfortable in their footwear. We're a running store, but most of my day is not running. That's a marketing thing that we should work on sometimes.
And I have a question. So you had said you were working every moment of every hour of every day, leading fun runs, whatever. Were you having fun? Like, what was your take on this?
So much fun.
You actually, so you
Oh my
enjoyed
gosh.
all of that.
I do all that. And I do all that. I do a lot of that now, a lot of it. I have a great staff who also do a lot of it. And I find what they're good at. And then we like delegate. But it's my favorite part. And I'm on the floor any hour that I can be. Like everyone learns the fit process of what we do, of looking at foot shape and what questions to ask and what to look for when we're fitting a pair of shoes or inserts. Every new staff member has to go through all that training, regardless if their goal is to only coach or their goal is to only eventually be our marketing director or whatever that is. So we talk a lot about team. We work a lot as a team. And I think I may have cut you off before, but currently we have, I think, 38 employees. And we run anywhere between 3 and 8 full-timers. Retail is hard. You know, most people maybe last in retail like 2 years. I have some staff who've been with me like 13 years.
Oh my gosh.
So we really talk a lot about, and I think that we did that a lot early on. Like everyone mops in the morning. Everyone knows how to do that. Everyone knows how to fit. People who love to lead fun runs. And we kind of mix up what everyone's jobs are. Because if you're 40 hours a week solely fitting, it can be pretty exhausting. And I can say that. For a lot of people, I can do it. Like if you ask me tomorrow if I could do it for like 5 days straight, open to close, yep. I love it.
Are you built different? Like that's
probably. I don't know if that's really true, but when I was building the store, I was also building my team. Like I knew that my goal was I wanted to always be on the floor, but it couldn't always be me. So you have to find the right people and then put them on the right seat on the bus. So I don't really hire people for certain positions. I hire everyone as a fit pro with like an added thing like coaching or footwear buyer or apparel buyer. But everything starts with fit professional. And then often they find actually what they like to do once they start working here. So we did that early on too. So I would say that was a lot of our success is like, oh, you're better at doing this than me. You can do that. And oh, you like that? Like a big one is like returns that are used. Like we have a guy that only does that. He comes in like 5 hours a week. Like I don't really want to sit in the office and go through like writing down and then shipping those shoes back to vendors. And I have someone who does that. But yeah, it was scary. But I guess I always knew that I didn't want to work for someone else. So I knew that I did everything when I worked for someone else. And I expected that of my team. And like I said, I'll clean toilets. I'll fit all day. I'll, do what I have to do.
So once your store now was actually open, so you did all this stuff leading up to it, all these events, all this community stuff, like getting engaged. Can you talk us through the kind of like the opening day, week, months? Like what was that like?
So you do a soft opening, right? The day before where you don't tell people we're open yet.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people still shop with us, which is so awesome. And then the next day you open, which was April Fool's Day. So that's always weird because we'll do funny things on that day. And really, I think 13 people came on the first day we were open. So I'm like, one person an hour? Okay. Like that's not very many people. I can't even I don't even know why people just came in. I mean, genuine, I guess I love what I do. I truly think that when I put shoes on people and they fit well and they stand up and they just feel a little bit better. And I would just share that everywhere I went. Like if I was getting a coffee or like we love a lot of the local restaurants and Friday night after you would work a 15-hour day and you just like wanted to go have a great experience somewhere else. And I didn't drop off necessarily Fleet Feet cards when I went out for dinner, but I may have done it a few times. But I guess too, I always am in work mode. Always. Like I am. It's not hard to do. It's not like I'm trying. But if I'm at the grocery store and I see a customer, I don't ignore them. I totally go say hi. And my kids like laugh like, oh, great. Like how long are you going to be here? I go to the gym, which I don't go very often, but.
Because you run outside for 4 hours.
I run outside. But I still keep my gym membership. But like part of it's networking. Like I'll go in and like I'll know like half the people there.
What gym do you go to?
Harvard.
Love
And
Harvard.
I pay my money. They know it. They'll sometimes be like, are you ever coming in? I'm like, no. It's never about creating sales. I just was always about creating community. So there's people who shop with me like once every 3 years, but I know they share what we do with other people. And I knew that. Like it was the first, actually going back to why I even decided to do this was if people had a good experience in Fleet Feet, Sacramento, they would tell 10 people. And at that time, the old school thing was if you had a bad experience, you told 10 people. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I do it. Like if I have a good experience somewhere, I typically am like, oh, like, have you been there? Or like, oh, I love that boutique. Or, I loved, the cupcakes we got from Miggy's. Like we do that. Like we talk about it. I'd sometimes like at the end of the day, only help 3 people. But I knew that those 3 people, if they went and told 3 more people, and I banked on that. I'm not gonna lie. Like I literally knew like if I created that and finished my day confident in what I did, then we would just continue to do that. Because there are days like really even today where I'm like, who's gonna come in today? Or a snow day. Or, a big one now is like, what if someone calls in sick and I only have 3 people working instead of 5? Like I can't create the same experience because I have less people working. And now, but I'm very open with our customers. Like I'll be like, hey, sorry that you're gonna have to wait 10 minutes. Like I had 2 people call in today. Just say that. Like that's the reality. Sorry you came on Saturday and had to wait a long time. We had something come up. Or my first time I had to close early because someone was getting married on our team. I would have never done that 15 years ago, but I'm like, we need to be there for that person. I'm not thinking like, oh, I'm closing early, I'm going to lose out on 3 hours of sales. Yeah. I'm thinking like, I need to do this for my team. I'm being completely honest. I don't look at balance sheets. I don't look at anything on the back end.
Does your husband?
Yeah.
He likes that?
I don't do any of that. Like I know the team knows like what we do each day, but I don't like hang thing goal setting. No, we don't do any competitive team things. We do everything team. They don't work on commission.
They don't or they do?
They don't.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've been open now for 18 years. You talk a little bit about, leading up to the opening, the first couple of days, you had some sales, and even me with being open for like a month and a half, some days are awesome. Some days it's like, oh, we had 2 people come in today. So can you talk to us about how you deal with how you dealt with downtime or like, how do you deal with the ups and downs of retail? And yeah, we'll just start there before I start asking more questions.
Yeah. So early on, anytime there was downtime, I was just always thinking of things we could do. So I would just get creative and think like, okay, well, this was a success fitting these trainers for inserts. Maybe we should do an on-site sports bra fitting. So I spent a lot of time just taking notes and literally sitting on the laptop outside my store and talking to the neighboring businesses of like what we were all going to do and having like ladies' nights and things like that to drive in business. Probably the hardest times we would have are our slow months, which are in the winter, and we don't see like an uptick around New Year's resolutions, which I think people probably think we do. So what we learned to do was to be busier in the times that are already busy. So in the slow times even now, we spend time getting ready for 2024. So in like December, January, February, when we're slower, I can have my full-time team work on what's up and coming. So when we used to think like, oh, like how are we gonna make January busy? Like it's dark and cold, no one's gonna come in. Even if they need new shoes, they're waiting till March. So we learned to plan a lot, which I'm not much of a planner, but I would sit down and like take the notes and someone else would organize them, my husband, and be like, okay, now we can execute that. And then in the busy times, we just would do more things. So
wow,
I know, right? Like, so from like March to October is our busiest season for the whole stores. It's also when we have the most training groups. It's when we have the most races. And we just tell our team to be ready. That's when we're really busy. And when you need to take vacation, that needs to be in the winter. So a couple of the scary times were definitely during the recession where we saw a downtick in sales of other things besides shoes. From a business standpoint, shoes take the most time to fit, least amount of margin, and you need to nail it. So it was hard at first when we weren't selling as many accessories and apparel in kind of that 2008 to 2011. It was kind of a while. And also as the internet became that's where people were getting their shoes. That's when we knew we we're going to do something I said I would never do, which is open a second location. So I had said like, nope, one store, love what I do. Sales are great. We made it through the recession. And then I realized that people went from driving 30 minutes for a destination to 10 minutes. So we decided to bookend the city and started looking at our options on the east side. And my husband, coming from a city planner background, said Sun Prairie is like one of the fastest growing cities. And so let's go there. But then I had to do it all over again. Like I had to like figure out how I was going to get customers in a city that I didn't live in.
Was it easier the second time?
It was not easier. And everyone will tell you that the second one is harder for way less, you're making less money, you're working more. But I was protecting my market. I was protecting my market. I mean, ultimately that's what I was doing. At the time, it did get scary. At one point, we had 6 competitors.
Sun Prairie?
No, just in Madison. Sorry.
What?
Yeah. So we had, there were a couple stores and then a couple opened, and then some people would like open like a lifestyle type store and then start adding running shoes. So yes, that was probably the scariest moment of like, shoot, like I feel like we're always on our A game, but like now we have all this competition. So that kind of happened in that time frame. So we opened Sun Prairie in 2014.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
So then all of a sudden we're bookending the city. There's some running and specialty stores in between.
Did you open a third?
No.
You sure about that?
Positive. But now,
I'll check back.
Then the other scary thing, which is then the pandemic. So we were not considered essential. And then that's when I had the biggest fear I'd ever had. So I never was fearful of closing my doors because this might sound bad, but Matt and I always said the worst case scenario is one of us each working in a store by ourselves, fitting people. Like that's the worst thing is going backward of having like 35 employees to just the 2 of you and just having to build again until you can afford staff again. We actually closed early, by the way, for the pandemic. My sister-in-law is a physician and I called her and I'm like, is this bad? And she's like, it's bad. So we closed on Monday. I think we all had to close by Thursday. And even though we were shoes and compression socks and, things that people needed to continue on, we were not considered essential. So we furloughed all of our part-timers and we moved all of our full-timers to 70%. And we answered they were 70% pay. Yeah, like they were working, I think, don't quote me exactly how we did it, but we basically were going to still pay our staff. And we were open 10 to 5 in both stores and 2 to 3 people working at a time answering the phone. And then once we'd close at 5, I'd make deliveries. So I'd like map out what I needed to do, and then I would do deliveries. But as many people know, when your sales are down some astronomical number, but then we got PPP, so we got help. And that was probably another thing that was hard. I had done so much on my own, and I went to some of my friends and I was like, oh, what do I do? And they're like, you take it.
What's PPP?
PPP was like assistance, like assistance from the government to make it through. And my one friend, actually, one of my friends who I chased down with that card, who then worked for me for 6 years, who no longer worked for me, said, you take that money. You have literally owned 2 businesses in this community for 14 years. And it's okay. And I was like, okay. So I was able to pay my staff. I was able to bring staff back. And then we had to follow all the guidelines. So we could start with only having appointments. And then we could only have like 5 customers at a time.
I had a virtual appointment.
Yeah, we had a lot of virtual appointments.
In my kitchen, I'm walking around. That's where I got recommended these.
Yes. Sit in a closet, like, but yeah, we like made it through. So the biggest fears did happen, which was having to let people go, or we actually were lucky. Every single one of our staff came back by July, except for 6 people.
Wow.
Who all decided just to either not come back to part-time work. Man, we adapted faster than ever before. Like my team was like, talk about going back to being creative. It was like, what can we do? Like, what about this idea? What do you think about this? And then we did a lot more social media stuff. And then another interesting thing that actually happened is in January of 2020, I had hired my second marketing person ever. And he had to pivot fast because like he basically got trained and in March I said, you're not doing any marketing and you're just going to have to do virtual fits and you're going to have to help me get my orders ready to deliver. And he actually stayed with us 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Was he actually full-time?
He was full-time and never really got to do his job, but he ended up being an amazing employee. And then came back part-time. So I was pretty fortunate. So that was the scariest part. And we made it through. And we have the largest staff we've ever had.
Let's talk about your most valued team member and life partner, your husband. How is it working together with someone you're married to?
We do not work well together.
Perfect. Tell me more. I love this.
So we don't work much in the same store at the same time. I love the floor. I have a lot of energy. I get to play the music I want on the sales floor. But my husband does all the behind the scenes. So he is the one paying our employees. He does the footwear buying, insurance,
That's a
workman's
dream.
comp.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
All those things.
All the things I'm dealing with now.
So you said you guys don't work well together. Are you like bubbly and he's kind of like not?
Yeah.
Because I
Like,
really
very.
identify with you. Like I feel that way. And then my boyfriend is very like numbers, math,
Yeah.
sit in the woods for hours like by himself. And we don't work great together.
Same with building
I feel the
anyone
same.
on your team. You learn that you can't have everyone like you work with each other because
Yeah.
nothing will get done. So we do have very distinct roles, but he fills in on the floor a ton. But yes, we are very different. And so we
How
really
early
don't
on
work well
did you
together.
realize that? And what did
Oh,
you do
very
to
early
like
on.
solve it?
Very early on. I think just really saying like he does plan, he can do a lot from home, and I don't sit very well, so I'm not going to get any of that done. And we've gotten better at like how we ask each other. So I'll be like, "Hey, do you mind?" And he hates it how I say it like that. He's like, "Oh, what are you going to ask me?" But we know what we're good at, so we kind of stay in our
In your lane.
lane.
Do you guys like need to project manage each other? Like, hey, Matt, did you do this? Or he just does it? And you
No,
don't
he
talk
just
about
does it.
Oh, okay.
And I just do mine.
Okay.
And we have very different organizational skill. Like
Do you guys meet together every so often? And are,
very, very seldom. But every dinner we go out on, it does always turn into something work related.
So
Yeah.
Matt, how's our balance sheet looking? You just slip it
I
in.
really have no idea. No, it sounds so bad.
Oh, the choice.
I do know.
want that.
No.
It's amazing.
It's
oh my
a lot of
gosh,
chores,
I would
though.
love this.
There's
Yeah.
a lot. There is so much behind the scenes. And those are the things like when I did take some early on business classes, they don't really take you through like the one side of experience and how you have to keep creating this amazing culture in order to keep good people and keeping that like energy going. And then you have the other side where who is taking care of getting the bills paid, and all those things are done when you're not open.
yes.
So you do have to find a really good teammate or co-owner. But yes, I would say we do not work very well together. Like if we are on a shift together, working next to customers.
Do you have any advice for your younger self looking back at all this whole thing? Your 24 or 5-year-old self?
The advice is to still do all the fun things along the way. Because now being a little bit older and I fit a lot of customers still. And people are like, oh, I'm going to wait till, I'm retired to do that. Or I'm going to wait to do that. Like, do not wait. Because you're working so hard that if there's something you want to do, and even if you're 3 years into owning your business, like you should do some of those things. I'm being honest. Like it is sad to like sometimes sit, and I've done a lot, even as my young self, like really early on, I couldn't do as many fun things. But, like when we decided to start a family, like at first I was like, this is really scary. Like how are we going to have a kid in the mix? And then having another one. And then like some of the vacations, where I'm like, oh, I should wait to do that. I'm like, no, we should do it now. You should do it. Because it's super stressful and you're working so hard, but you should still do those fun things.
Does the grind ever stop?
Nope. Does not. It doesn't.
Do you
but
think
if you
you'll
are
ever
passionate
retire?
about what you do, it's not a grind. How's that?
Do you think you're ever going to retire? Or you're always going to be in here fitting people?
I
Fitting or running, baby?
think at some point I will retire. And I get asked this question quite often of what that looks like. I will probably maybe go back to working for someone else or do something a little different.
I hear Tricky Foods is hiring.
Yeah,
Always.
I know. There's so many fun things. And really like thinking of re-entering back into like food world, like I loved waiting tables. Like I still have the wait tables dreams today and bartending dreams now. I haven't waited tables since I quit the Claude Irish pub to open my
worked there?
store. I worked there. I actually
The one
funny,
in
the
Greenway?
Claude, the one now it's closed now. It's where Biaggi's is.
Yeah, I used to go there all the time.
Yeah.
You
So
probably
that's where I
waited on me.
worked. And they were like, oh, we'd love to like promote you. And I was like, oh, and that's when I couldn't say what I was doing. So when I gave my notice, like, oh, we really wanted to keep you. And I was like, and then I could be like, oh, well, I'm opening my own business. That's why I can't stay here.
When you're working really long 80-hour weeks, what keeps you going?
The people. It's always the people. Whether it's the staff, knowing that like I'm working with them. You know, I don't want them to think they're like working for me. I'm working with them. There is no other thing I've ever done where someone thanks you after every fit. Like you're literally one-on-one with the customer and they're like, thank you so much for helping me today. Like every person thanks you. Even if like you didn't click at first, if you've like helped them. But that's what keeps me going. Like people, I'm hopefully making their day by helping them. But I wouldn't call it a grind. I truly enjoy it.
Why do you think people should get into running if they don't already?
Well, it's so good for you. I mean, you can go outside. You can do it from anywhere. You can literally just like lace up shoes and probably a good pair of socks and a couple few cute pieces and apparel and just go and do it anywhere in any city or on a treadmill. I'm a huge fan of run walk intervals. So if people don't want to run or identify as a runner, I'm a huge fan of walking and getting outside or hiking. And I love the goal setting part of it. Training group for me, like watching someone run their first 5K without stopping or running that first half marathon before they turn 50, it does not get old. Like it's so exciting to watch somebody through their journey and then having a goal at the end. I probably do have like a ton of other things I could tell you about, but I have seen people meet their spouse through running. I've seen people meet their best friend, and they wouldn't have met if they didn't meet through training group because they might have completely different professions. They might live on the complete opposite end of town. And since our training groups often meet at different locations, it gets people out of their comfort zone. So we don't always meet at the stores. We like to meet at different locations to get on different bike paths and things. But all of a sudden you're running next to somebody who also runs an 11-minute mile and you get to talking and you see them every week for 12 weeks. And by the end, you're both running 12 miles. Like, it's the coolest thing to watch. It's my social part for me. Like, yes, I enjoy actually running, but I don't ever I run by myself like once a month.
Wow. Holy.
I always
Do
run
you
with
run
someone
with
else.
your husband?
No.
He's not a runner? Or
He is a runner. It's the same
You
pace.
just don't like running together?
We don't run well together. You're like, what do you guys do together? You don't work together. You don't run together.
What do you guys do
I
for
love
fun?
this.
Let's talk offline about that.
But I do typically run with others. So that's why I encourage so much of like the training group.
So a couple questions to close us out here. One, where can we find you? And also, where can we sign up for a running group?
Our west side location is 8440 Old Sauk Road. We're just west of the Buttline. And our other store is 2828 Prairie Lakes Drive. We are Suite 106. Those are our two locations. And we do have fleetfeetmadison.com where you can see a full calendar of all the fun things that we do. Monday fun runs, Thursday fun runs, upcoming training, destination marathon, Huntington Beach.
Oh.
There's a 5K, 13.1 and 26.2 mile option. But come run or walk with us. We have such a good time.
And for those who are watching on YouTube, you can see we are in the Middleton location on Old Sauk Road. So if you haven't been watching, just come in or watch the video and you can see a little bit into the store.
Therese, where can they find you?
You can find me at Tricky Foods. And Shelby, where can they find you?
You can find me at Mickey's Bakes, and you can find us at Screw It, Let's Do This.
That's it. On Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. And
go subscribe. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we have a fun little surprise, and we will see you next time.
See y'all next time. Bye.